This ought to be interesting. Some people think, ladies and gentlemen, that it's easy to just fire up the old karaoke machine and start a podcast. But it ain't nothing like that. Why is it every time I sit down behind this auspicious microphone that there is something that goes awry? It's called Murphy's Law. Oh yeah, see, I have this engineer that sits forward of me, and I have an engineer that sits aft of me. Now, the engineer that sits forward should be telling me what they hear when you're hearing it. And this engineer just happens to be my daughter. Hey, I can't hear anything, Dad. Now, we had this problem last night. So I start unplugging everything and shut the whole live down to like, what is the problem? Then she sends me a follow-up message. Oh, never mind. Oh, if she wasn't my daughter. But that's what makes this what it is, ladies and gentlemen. We have introduced a live component to what we do. And we're very, very thankful for this component. And I'm hoping that tonight you have your PPE, your personal protective equipment. I'm also hoping that you have your hand sanitizers, Clorox wipes, or Dollar General wipes. And I'm also hoping that you have mounds of toilet paper. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know how long this present pandemic is going on for. But this one thing we do know. It ain't gonna be over tomorrow. Hello to my good friend Colby. Ain't seen you in forever. It's a grass cutting machine right there. Hello to Larry and Pam, Thomas, Gerald, David, and Charles. You are tuned in live to Impacting Life 24/7 with your host, CL King, at the High Definition Studios here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. And in a few more days, the studios are going to be even higher definition. Okay, so we are continuing to expand. We've got a new, I probably shouldn't say this online, so the lady downstairs doesn't hear. But we've got a new and improved soundboard coming because we found what we feel is the culprit for the pops. But because we have to continue on, and perhaps the coronavirus may have gotten into this soundboard that I have, we're going to continue to press on to give you our national dialogue of impacting life one day at a time. One life, one day at a time. And so tonight we are going to be discussing a very important topic. One of the topics that was given to me prior to this whole pandemic just unleashing on America. It was given to me by a young man. And he asked me, he said, should a young person or a teenager seek out faith? Should a young person or a teenager seek out faith? And can a young person have a life of faith? And I was really moved by that question because the young man is basically saying, look, I want to go down this road. I want to seek out faith for myself, and I want to know what it is. I mean, I see you guys leaving out of your driveway 3 or 4 times a week, and I know you're not going out to eat all those times with all the mouths you got to feed. I said, no, young man, we're going to church. And his question just resonated with me because do we think that faith and religion, that's just a common term? I know some of y'all religious folks gonna get on here and say, well, it's not religion, it's relationship. Well, just let it be, okay, because we want to make sure that we reach a broader audience. Is a relationship with God important for a young person? I'm opening up the broadcast tonight with a question to you. Is a relationship with God, a Gen Zer, a Gen Y, a millennial, is a relationship with God important for a young person? And if so, why? Because there are so many options that our young people can choose from nowadays. It almost seems as an oxymoronic idea that we should tell our young people, yes, seek out a relationship with God. Why? Because so much is available to them. Right here in their hands. For those of you who can't see that are listening to our podcast, Impacting Life 24/7, I'm holding my cellular phone. Don't even call them cellular phones anymore. But everything is available to them at the drop of a dime, a touch on a touchscreen phone. Even some of the old folks migrated from flip phones to touchscreen. And we call them smartphones. So tell me, is a relationship with God important for a young person? And if so, why? Should a young person be introduced to religion by their parents? Do y'all think that's important? Or do you feel that you should let little Johnny or little Susie make up their own minds at the age of accountability, whatever that is? Maybe the age of accountability now is when you get a cell phone. Huh? Because you don't know everything that your young person is viewing on that little 5-inch device. Yeah. The age of accountability. Should it be when they get a cell phone? Maybe a little bit beyond that. Because parents are giving their kids cell phones at such a young age now. 9, 10 years old, 11. Why? Because they've got to contact me. What if there's a riot at school and they need to get a hold of me? I need to contact Susie. And God bless you if your name is Susie. But really, that's the danger with being born in a couple different dispensations, because we got history to go back and glean from. And we're like, wait a minute. They always found a way to get, how was it that My parents knew what my report card was before I got home with it. After I had tried to carefully take white out, and that's this liquid stuff for y'all generation Z's. That's this liquid stuff that you'd put on the report card, and I would smear it over and then try to rewrite the grade in. Somehow, my grandmother knew what my grades were before I got home. For those of you watching live, yes, I am yawning. And for those of you listening, no, I am not. You can't tell. But 0 dark 30 this morning, this studio now doubles as an office. So I'm up early in the morning in the grind. And so 7 o'clock to make this podcast is late for a brother. But no, I used to white out the grades. Any of you ever try that? See, do they even get... I'm so out of touch. I mean, do they even get hard copy report cards anymore? They certainly don't get them where the teacher actually wrote in the grades. That would be almost like archaic, like horse and buggy, stone and chisel. They do send home some sort of computerized thing. But the kids know their grades before they get home, and they're like, oh, well, that was the previous 9 weeks. I've heard that from my boys so much. Oh, that was the previous 6 weeks. Oh, that was, it's all washed out now. It's not like this carries over. No. That was just the previous 6 weeks. We're good now. We're starting over. It's a year of Jubilee. And time has changed so much that can we see a generation rise up that ascribes to faith but doesn't practice it, doesn't go to a house of worship, doesn't have a fellowship of believers of whatever belief. They have faith. They believe that there's a higher, I hear this a lot, how people escape out of any type of acknowledgement of God, that, well, there's obviously a higher being and a higher power, but do you believe in God? So do we now, in the 21st century, the new enlightened era, the time period in which everybody's allowed to make decisions for themselves based off of the information that they have, and the information that they have is numerous because everybody got all of the same information. I remember growing up, right, wrong, or indifferent, I remember growing up when adults were talking in the room and kids did not go interrupt them. Any of y'all remember that? That will watch this later or watching it now. I remember growing up where if a grown folks was talking, the grown folks said, you kids is to be seen and not heard. Y'all stay out of grown folk business. Because they was doing some grown folk stuff over there. But now, there is no such thing as grown folks' business. It's all right here in this 4x5 smartphone that you now don't even make your kids turn in at night, and they go to bed with it, with their ear pods in their ears. Yeah, so we are in a generation of enlightenment that says, a young person would say, look, I don't need you for information. I could say, yo, Google. Or I could say, hey, Siri, is that not true? Okay, they don't believe me. Okay, Google, how far is the planet Earth from the planet Jupiter? Let's see if my on-air antics will actually work. See, because I got one of them I got one of them delayed smartphones. Okay, Google, how far is the planet Earth from the planet Jupiter? Let's see.
According to space.com, when the two planets are at their closest point, the distance to Jupiter is only 365 million miles.
Only 365 million miles, Earth to Jupiter. And you can find that out instantly. There was a time when some of us were going to school, where you had to take the whip and lash the mule, and the cart would roll down to the public library. I know this is just all archaic, and actually have to go to the card column and look up and find the book or the encyclopedia or whatever, and find out how far Earth was from the planet Jupiter. But that would just be too much of a lead time. Ain't nobody got time for that. Now you can find out that Jupiter, just with the speaking of a voice, you ain't even got to touch nothing. At its closest point, it's 365 million miles, just like that. Bam. So why would my son need to come and ask me, the chief lion of the house? I'm the cat with the mane. You know what I'm saying? I'm the high hog at the water trough. And my sons now don't even have to come and say, "Hey, Dad, what's the birds and the bees?" Okay, one more example. Let's just test that one on live national broadcast. Okay, Google. Yep. See, here's I'm going to show you. Here it is. Watch. You'll see. Okay, Google. What is known as the birds and the bees? Let's see if it works. See, again, my kids are going to make fun of my phone because I'll try it again for y'all. Just watch. You'll see. Okay, Google. What is known as the birds and the bees?
According to Wikipedia, the birds and the bees is an English language idiomatic expression and euphemism that refers to courtship and sexual intercourse.
Now, this is a family show, ladies and gentlemen, so we're not going to drill down into that too much. But you see right there? Whereas dads used to take their sons out on this long road journey to explain to them about the birds and the bees, now their cell phone can give them insight and replace your wisdom and knowledge and say, "Oh, birds and the bees, that's courtship and sexual intercourse." You just heard it off of Google. Hello, my friend from Illinois. Augie is back in Illinois. It's good to see you, my friend. And the hat that I'm wearing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is sponsored by Mr. Augie Augustine, the truck driver. I just did a show about truck drivers not too long ago. He's my truck driving friend that travels all across the country. He's up in Illinois tonight. And for those of you who can't see me, I'm wearing a Dallas, which is a city that I love. Dallas, nice baseball cap. But anyway, here, let's get down to it, okay? Should young people seek out faith? All right, I know I've messed around a little bit, but listen, man, Lord, working from home, you got a lot more free time on your hands from the perspective of your mind can just wander. Helping young people connect to God should be something that we strive for. And why is that? Because spiritual habits matter. And there's a couple different elements. It's called StuffYouCanUse.org. And this is very, very interesting when I was researching this for show prep today about how can we be the nexus for our next generation in their relationship with God. Number one, for us to help them spend time with God, we have to spend time with God. It can't just be that spending time with God may be a spiritual habit that exists, but it's got to be kind of important. Not just a spiritual ritualism that you do, but if you want it to be important to them, it's got to be conveyed that it's important to you. And so how can we help teenagers and young people spend time with God? There's several ways. And if you're a young person and your parents aren't listening to this, here's some things that you can do. Get them a Bible, the Bible, whether you're Baptist, Methodist, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, the book, the Bible, the Word of God is important. Give them a Bible. Help them memorize scriptures, help them learn the 23rd Psalms. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Teach them how to pray, realizing that communication is important. Today, while I was on lunch break and my boys were on break from school, I said, man, we got a friend whose wife, who just had a baby. His name is Gabriel Gonzalez. And we need to pray for his wife. She's not doing well. And nobody's going to stop us. This is a great place for us to pray. And teaching them by those habits are important. And then help them discover their spiritual wiring. It's important for us, if moms and dads here's what I know, moms and dads, okay? Here's what I've seen. All right? I'm a parent of 7 children and 5 grandchildren. I am far from perfect. Okay, but here's what I know, that principle works no matter what, whether you're good or bad. If you put your child in the Nile River to escape, certain death, somebody's going to take care of that child. Okay, the principle works whether you were a good parent or not. And what I see in terms of spiritual habits are that we're migrating to a time where we're saying, well, we don't want to force little Johnny or little Susie to, we don't want them to feel like they're going to grow up to hate religion and hate God and all that kind of stuff. Well, let me ask you, did your little Johnny or little Susie come out of the belly with a baseball bat in their hand? Or basketball? Or football? Perhaps a ballerina dress? Gymnastic pole vault? Gymnastic vault? Did they come out of the womb with that? No. And yet we engage them in those things like they have declared that's what they've wanted to do since time immemorial. Is that true? Oh, help me now. Did they come out kicking? Well, yes, some did come out kicking and screaming, but they didn't come out with a white belt or a brown belt or a green belt, and yet we take them to karate, judo, MMA, and everything else. And this is where the viewers leave the room. My point is that we guide our children into those things and see if they'll gravitate toward them. See if they'll find a love for them. I knew that Chris was going to be a drummer at about 2 years old. So I bought him his first drum set. I said, here you go, dog. These sticks are bigger than you are. Play. And for those of you who don't think that paid off, not for me, but for him, look at how he plays now. And it was later in life that I found out that Jeremiah was a natural outdoorsman and an engineer. He could put anything together. And then it was early in life with Mariah that I found out that she could sing and she loved music and she could play the piano and she loved to use her voice. And then with Christina Lee loved animals. So she's had every animal in the animal kingdom. And so, yes, we connect our children to these things, and that's not to say that they love them initially. Am I telling the truth? Hello, DeAndre. Are you still over there overseas? We need to give prayer for our dear friend DeAndre Corpus Douglas. He is over there in, I think, Norway, somewhere freezing cold. Hopefully he's coming home soon, fighting forces. Good friend of mine. So we do these things like let's even go down to the micro level. Okay, can I go down further? Can CL King just go a little bit deeper? Moms, some of you pierce your daughter's ears when they're like 18 months old. And I know that child wasn't saying, Mom, I want my ears pierced now. She can't even ask. Only thing she can ask for food is by crying. And so there are things that we do to guide our children in a particular path. But now in this age of enlightenment and this age of technology where everybody has all of the same information, we say, we'll let our kids make their decision about pursuing faith when they're, 20 years old. And it is, I feel, something that should be just as important as those other elements. I see y'all on Saturdays out there running your kids back and forth to Pee Wee football or whatever it's called. And they got the full get up. They got the full garb on out there. Like they really going to get a chance in the NFL. 1 out of 400,000 people make it. And you got them out there banging. Well, it teaches them camaraderie and it teaches them discipline until you go watch the NFL and then you see how them clowns act. And I'm like, I don't want my kids to act anything like that. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad this is my podcast. So should we? I'm doing this for a young man who reached out to me and said, should I start looking at, a religious background or I don't have all the answers, but I'm feeling like they're holding this cell phone in your hand, holding a tablet or an iPad in your hand is only so fulfilling. I feel our young people are looking and they're scrolling through Instagram and Snapchat and Facebook, a few of them. And they're saying, man, if this is what all life is meant to be, then, man, don't count me in. Because we have set the bar. Even in the religious community, we have set the bar for bickering and complaining and backbiting and tail-bearing and leveraging one opinion against another. Who's conservative and who's not, and who's liberal and who's not, man. And the generation coming up is saying, man, I don't know if I want anything to do with you all. And I don't blame them. But I will say, in all of the church's faults, and all of the church's, maybe it's not the church, but humanity, and all of humanity's faults, man, we still put our trust in something higher than us, even with our faults. Here's another thing that you can do to help your young person establish, and here's what you can do to establish whether or not a relationship with God and your Creator, the Alpha and the Omega, is important. By spending time with others. This is a spiritual habit, in particularly helping us to grow like Christ with our relationships. Christians and non-Christians too. Your kids are going to watch how you treat those that are not at First AME Zion Methodist Episcopal Baptist Church. They're going to see how you treat those people as well. So having a relationship with those that are in Christ and those that are not. Because sometimes it won't be just another church potluck or Bible study with our fellow Christians that will grow us the most. Oftentimes it might be a friendship and an investment or a challenging conversation with a non-Christian that makes the biggest difference in our faith. And if that's the case with us, surely how do we teach young people to do that? By giving them a sense of community through this is what they say, stuffyoucanuse.org, giving them a sense of community through small groups, consistent small groups. Giving young people an opportunity to connect in groups that are small. Offer the young people an opportunity to connect. Make your environment visitor friendly. How can we help teenagers spend time with others? Make your environment visitor friendly. I know that's the truth in my house. Man, I be trying to get people up out of here, but our house is visitor friendly. They know when you come over here, you can stay, eat all you want. We don't invite people over and have two liters of soda with 50 people here. That's happened to me before. I go to people's crib and I'm like, okay, back in the days when it was, all of us, the whole crew rolling through in a big old 15-passenger van, we roll up like, yeah, we want to have you guys over. And they got like 3 tacos and 1 2-liter. And I done brought a turkey, a ham, stuffing, greens, macaroni. I'm just like, y'all know what? Why don't y'all put y'all food away? We'll go ahead and eat like we normally do. Joining a sense of community and having a sense of community is important for our young people. Even a sense of community during this time when our communities have changed. See, our communities shifted some time ago, long before COVID-19. Okay. So whereas we in the 2 generations prior to this one, the generation X and the baby boomers and such, we're like, hey, we want to be in proximity to someone else. We want to connect with that. That's how we fuel our it's the lifeblood of our existence. Man, this next group, they're like, oh, this is how we connect. Okay, anyway. They connect by their phone or by their devices or by their platforms. And so we've got to teach them how to have additional healthy connections. I think it's important, ladies and gentlemen. Should youth seek faith? My answer is yes. I don't think after a certain stage that it should be forced on them. Notice I said after a certain stage. I think we should introduce it to them. If it's a part of our life, it should be a part of theirs. Okay? Don't you go to church and leave your kids at home with the babysitter. Come on, man. No, not when you will drag your kids around to every other thing, and you'll sit there in the bleachers and stands and watch them wrestle and practice and keep you out till 9, 10 o'clock at night every night of the week, and you're just asking them to go somewhere one time a week. Here's what we got to do. We got to make sure that we show them the balance in this relationship, that the relationship is not just tied up in a sport or a club or anything. A relationship is tied up more in what you do, outside of those things, because those things can be here today and gone tomorrow. I told my boys this when the baseball season started. Okay. This is the first time out of 7 children that I've had 2 of my kids playing a sport at the same time. Okay. And I told them, I said, listen, gentlemen, don't put your stock in what sports can do for you, because it will divorce you just as cool as your name is Chris Jr. and Jeremiah. The moment that you can't produce for it, it'll send you on down the road. And we see that in professional sports. There is no such thing as loyalty in the professional sports world. I mean, the late Kobe Bryant typified the example of a organization and a player having a relationship that was inseparable. But now, I mean, they couldn't even keep my man in New England. They should, for 20 years, giving a franchise 6 Super Bowls and so much more. Tom Brady, he should have been able to write his own check at that franchise. But they started him-hawing around and found out that he was one of the but he was not the top paid quarterback in the NFL. And he's going down in history as one of the greatest ever. So I'm not bashing sports, okay, y'all. Don't write me or email me or text me and say, "See, you just demeaned sports." No, what I'm telling you is that it's a holistic thing, man. You gotta look at the whole. And some of y'all are so lopsided, but then when your kid doesn't have a relationship with God, then you wonder why. Where did I go wrong? Because you carted them around to all these other events. Wrestling practice, then baseball practice, then football practice, then soccer, then dance, then tap dance, then ballet, then karate, then judo. You touted them all over the place, but you did. Oh man, you got to get your driver's license by the time you're 15 and 3/4 days old, and then you got to get a job by the time you're 16, and then you got to take your SAT. But then you never. Okay, all of that stuff is. It's like grass. It's like the chaff that the wind drives away. See, people can argue with the validity of those things, but they cannot argue with your validity and your relationship with God because it's yours. It's personal. And I think, though I was not the best dad, I think the relationship that I have with God helped me be a much better dad than what I could have been. Can my kids say amen? So I'm going to close out tonight because there's so much more, but man, I'm trying to not go 7 hours on a podcast. David is an example of someone who was used by God at an early age. And I was blessed to be used by God at an early age. No, I didn't raise someone from the dead, but it was Pastors Lewis and Tina Cayetan at Church on the North Coast in Lorain, Ohio, that saw this little black kid that was a foster child that had some bumps in life. And they said, you know what? We're going to teach you how to utilize the things that you've went through to help and inspire someone else. And my foster mom, she was pretty adamant about it, but also my biological mother and my biological family, they're all, my grandfather's a preacher, so they're all, in tune with God. So it was kind of like in my bloodline. But when I went down to church on the North Coast as a 14-year-old, they showed me how to take what was inside of me and slay giants at 14. And man, that's 31 years ago. They gave me my first full-time job at Church on the North Coast. It's a huge church. Look it up in Lorain, Ohio. And Pastors Lewis and Tina Cayetan really took a chance on this kid from the hood, kid from, the system, to give me a chance to understand that, man, this relationship with God thing is pretty cool. It's not all just boring, and it was awesome. I loved it. Then at 18 years old, man, they sent me over to England on a missions trip with my great friend, Brian Del Turco and Pam Corsino. Man, we had such a time over there, man. I got to go into schools and do music and Christian rap. And man, You could go into the schools and just talk about the Lord. Do you not think that still stays with me after all of these years? How I don't reflect on that and think about it? I think about it often. I think about those people that I got to minister to in Belden, England. But I would not have been able to do any of that if I had waited till I was 45. I would not have been able to do any of that if I had not taken the opportunity that was presented before me. And for someone to say, "Hey, man, we're going to invest in you. We want to show you how you can have a relationship with God, man." And that to me was critical. It was crucial. So if that happened for me as a young person, the kid David in the Bible, who everyone looked at as unqualified and too young, this kid who doesn't even have his own armor, the way he defeated Goliath was not by some cunning craftsmanship. He defeated Goliath by just being himself. And young person who sent me this message, and also the young persons who may watch this later, you don't have to be some theological deep, to have to give an exegesis on everything, that every scripture in the Bible. You just have to be your most authentic you. And God will love you just the way you are. And he can use you. He did that for me. Here I am, 45 years old. I know I don't look a day over 30. But here I am, 45 years old, and have been all across the country, deep studied church psychology and anatomy and religion and, what makes churches tick. And then to come to realize, man, that at the end of the day, man, it's just still about a relationship with him, just like you would have a relationship with your mom or dad. A good one. It's a paternal relationship. And so to answer that young person's question, yes, I feel you should seek out a relationship with God. I feel all young people should. And I feel moms and dads, we should encourage that, and we should nurture it just as much as we nurture these other things: soccer, baseball, track, wiffle ball, or, all the other sports that we cart our kids around and, spend hundreds of dollars for them to be a part of. Ain't nothing wrong with it, y'all. But don't make those things the main thing. Show them how during a coronavirus you can have faith, man, and you can still go out to Walmart. And I think was a little old lady stocking a shelf or something. And the other day that I was there, and I was asking her for where something was, and I gave her a hug. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "Oh no, I'm a child of God." I said, "And so am I. So we're protected, sister." Had ourselves a little Jesus moment right there in Walmart, baby. But that started from 14 years old. I suggest, and I humbly submit to you that you cannot go wrong. You can go wrong with a lot of things, but you cannot go wrong with a relationship with God. And let the church, ladies and gentlemen, say amen. So, folks, you heard it here first. Impacting Life 24/7. Hello to my dear friend, Will Argenbright, the Gunny, the legend, the veteran. So appreciate you, my friend. So appreciate our friendship. Such a strange way to become friends with somebody. I actually served with his dad as a young PFC private way back in them days. And they didn't just give out rank back then. You had to actually earn it. And so I thought he was his dad because they're twins. And somehow it just happened to come up in my Facebook thing, and I was like, hey, is this Gunny Augenbright? And just happen to figure his dad was a gunny. So he thought, yeah, I was one of his troops, but man, me and him are the same age. So it's like, no, we weren't in at the same time, and you were a gunny. So just so cool, man. So glad. Thank you for all that you're doing for Onslow County as well as our veterans. And when Onslow County gets its head out of the sand, they will have you duly elected as the next county commissioner. So God brought us together for sure. I want to thank everyone for your support. Here's what I want to say. I know I say subscribe. You can go on to podbean.com and look up Impacting Life 24/7 with me, CL King. But I want to say thank you to all of those who have helped thus far, because here's what I realized. Nobody's going to hand it to you. Okay. When I did my speaking business, I had, with the help of God, obviously, but he did not make me get up out of the bed and go out there and knock on doors to create opportunities. And so with this podcast, I'm realizing that nobody's going to, I don't have any promoters on here that are going to be like, here, let me get you in front of Oprah and get you in front of NBC and ABC and Fox and everybody else. No, I'm thankful for the people that believe in what I'm doing. And it's onesies, twosies as we go along. And I realize that some people just come on, they look, and they're like, okay, whatever. It's just a passing fancy. But there's not been anything that I've started in this life that I haven't poured my whole self into. So, yes, I'm still a professional speaker, but this is just another platform that's going to be a great thing for me. And so if you would, you can subscribe and share this with someone. Let them know, hey, look, if it's a young person trying to determine whether or not they should have a relationship with God, I just gave you some nuggets tonight, a real life story, and how a relationship with God impacted me and it impacts me to this day. Okay? So subscribe. Podbean.com, Spotify, or of course right here on Facebook Live. And we'll be back here again Thursday night at 7 p.m. barring any travesty with my sound. Hopefully my new sound equipment will be in by then and we can do some tests. We can really crank it up, man. I might play some heavy metal Christian music just to really rock the house. Because I got a lot of juice flowing through the apparatus I have now. And so it's all a part of the process. God bless you. It's been CL King. Have a good night.